Yo, how you doing? Happy Monday. Is that something you're allowed to say? Or do people get mad when you say that? Uh, anyhow, Robin Lundberg Show back in full effect. Got some stuff to get to today. In fact, gonna talk a little NBA on the show because I am a basketball fan, and there was a time where I was known as an NBA guy, and the NBA is relevant to the WNBA right now. But let's start with that, and I want to say what's going on in the WNBA right now. The drama, I guess this is fitting for that league at times. The drama has completely overshadowed the WNBA finals. What's going on with Napheesa Collier and Cathy Engelbert, and whether Engelbert said what she was alleged to say about Caitlin Clark is the story. And the finals are on the back burner. The Ace is up 2-0, by the way, on the Phoenix Mercury after drubbing them yesterday. Game one was sensational in the finals. Let me show a little love. I thought game one was terrific in the WNBA finals. Alyssa Thomas choking those free throws may well have sealed the deal for the Mercury in the series, though, because they wind up losing game two. The Aces win that going away. Jackie Young, tremendous in that game. Jackie Young is one of my favorite players. In fact, if I was picking just like a starting five, not say the all WNBA first team from this year, but just a WNBA starting five, Jackie Young would be on my list. But all of that is secondary right now, at least from an attention standpoint, to what has happened since Napheesa Collier, dropped that bomb at the press conference, the exit interviews for the Minnesota Lynx. Cathy Engelbert winds up responding on Friday night before game one of the finals. That's what everybody was waiting to see, what she was going to say. She winds up responding and says there's a lot of inaccuracies out there. A lot of inaccuracies was the wording that Engelbert used. Inaccuracies. So that would imply that not everything was correct. Now, it wasn't a flat out denial. That was in reference. She was asked about the what was the question she was asked? Whether the players should be on their knees thanking the league for the media rights deal. Now, Engelbert did flatly deny the idea that she said Caitlin Clark should be grateful for the platform that the WNBA provides and the ensuing endorsement deals she's gotten as a result. She did flat deny that. So by flat denying that, she's calling Napheesa Collier a liar, right? I didn't say that comment. Napheesa said I said that comment. There be it, Napheesa's a liar. Cathy Engelbert got up there and basically called Napheesa Collier a liar. Since then, it's been reported that Collier canceled a meeting she was supposed to have with Engelbert. And here's the problem I'm having right now. A couple things. One, you can't lose sight of the big picture here if you're any of the parties involved. You can't lose sight of the fact that the end goal here is a new CBA. The end goal here is to come to an agreement with the league on the CBA. Get everybody paid, capitalize on what's taken place in the the last couple of years. Obviously, Caitlin Clark was the catalyst. That was again proven. Like, Clark's name comes up and all of a sudden the WNBA dominates headlines again. She hasn't played since July. Her name gets thrown out there, dominate headlines. As I've said, Michael Magic and Bird all rolled in one. Just mention her and you're on SportsCenter. And that put this whole thing into everybody's zeitgeist, into everybody's face. And I guess Collier feels like she got spit in the face. But Collier's the one who brought this up. She's the one that decided to go CM Punk pipe bomb and drop that promo. So if you're going to do that, what was the point? Is the only acceptable outcome here the removal of the commissioner? Is that the position and the tack that is being taken? Because I guess I would understand that if that's the um goal. I guess I would understand that if that's the, you know, point that they're trying to make, that they're trying to get across. That we're not going to negotiate with Cathy Engelbert. All right. Fine. Then come out and say it. Then say that directly, because Cathy Engelbert works for the owners. It is her job to negotiate on behalf of the owners, which in the WNBA is also the NBA. That's the situation we're in right now, where it's the powers that be who determine Cathy Engelbert's fate. But regardless, either Cathy Engelbert could step down, or they could pressure her to step down. But if not, then that's who you got to negotiate with. So they always say it's business, not personal. And I do feel as if this situation has crossed over into a little bit more of a personal situation. Now, Napheesa Collier does not speak on behalf of all of the players in the WNBA, but she is the VP? She is in an important position. It's not like she's nobody. And I don't think the tact here is necessarily correct. You're going to put her on blast. All right, take it all the way to the finish line, but you can't then set that up and then not be willing to deal with the consequences. Now, maybe they're not meeting just because it could get messier, and that's what's trying to be avoided by meeting. I don't know. I just don't really love the message of it, because this is the fate of every player in the league here, and their salaries and all those things. And what's the deadline? October 31st. Now, they can push that, as Engelbert said. That's not a hard deadline. But nonetheless, it would be an epic facepalm, of epic proportions, if they can't come to an agreement here. If they can't come to an agreement. And, if you allow it to get too personal, that can muddy the water for everything. Then there's also the unrivaled aspect of it, which factors in, right? Like, that factors in. And, unrivaled is Napheesa Collier's league, along with Breanna Stewart. So you have to wonder how that can play into the negotiations as well. Because Collier and Stewie launched this league, and of course, they're invested in it, right? I mean, they got all these investors. They are very invested. Is there a conflict of interest there? Because if you are the WNBA, you can make the argument that if you're going to increase the salaries and you're going to increase the revenue share and all of those things, then you would also perhaps not want players playing in an off-season league, which is obviously not something Collier would be willing to accept an agreement. Now, I don't know if that's the case or if that's what's happening, but that is an interesting aspect of the details as well. So there's really a lot to unpack, but I guess I would just say, like, my advice would be for everybody involved here, don't, lose sight of the end goal because you've framed the WNBA commissioner as the enemy. That's basically, can't make it too personal. That you can't take back or you can't proceed accordingly. Stephanie White had some interesting comments as it relates to this and Caitlin Clark's involvement. She was on the radio in Indy, and this is what Stephanie White had to say. She also talked about the fever season, but I thought her bit on Caitlin Clark was worth hearing.
And then Caitlin Clark kind of getting brought into that, Caitlin Clark responding to it. What has been your overall assessment of that dialogue and as it relates to your star player?
Yeah, I mean, I hate it all for Caitlin. I feel like, she's a 23-year-old kid who loves to play this game, who is a pawn in a lot of other people's games and a lot of other people's narratives, and I hate that for her. We're coming into a time in the WNBA where we're kind of part of the growing pains of becoming quote unquote mainstream professional sport is some of this stuff. I do think that we are at a pivotal moment in terms of the league's history. And look, I was a part of the very first collective bargaining agreement of the WNBA where we wanted insurance all year long, to now where it is growing and players do deserve more. And leadership needs to reflect where we are as a league and also understand where we are as a league and where players' perspectives are coming from. And, we have coaches on the sidelines and Becky Hammond and myself, and of course, Noelle Quinn, who was in Seattle, who played in this league, this league is part of our lifeblood. Like we have grown up in this league and we take pride in this league and the success of this league. And we also take pride in understanding what needs to be done and in leadership. And part of leadership is taking accountability. Part of leadership is owning how we move the needle. Part of leadership is not just recognizing the people who are part of this league, but empowering and embracing and understanding what they bring. And, your employees are your number one asset. And so I do feel like we're at a pivotal moment. I do feel like we're at a time where all things have to be considered and where multiple truths do exist, certainly. And I think that sometimes right now in our country and in our world, we forget that multiple truths can exist. But I think we are at that point to begin to have these very hard conversations about what it looks like moving forward.
So, I mean, this is a couple interesting things from Stephanie White there. One is the idea that Caitlin Clark is being used as a pawn in all this. And yeah, I do think what Napheesa said was in a sense to weaponize Caitlin Clark fans, a tactic, a chess move to invoke what she said that Cathy Engelbert said. And then Caitlin gets asked about it. And she said, she has great respect for Fee and Fee makes a lot of great points, but she didn't know about it beforehand. So, it's involving Caitlin Clark without her being involved directly. Stephanie White, though, also there is kind of continuing the call for leadership change. I mean, that's something we've seen across the board. So I feel like either you got to come out and say, we're not doing these negotiations with Cathy Engelbert to force that change, if that's what you want. Don't beat around the bush. Don't hint at it. Either, we're not doing this if she's in charge. Full stop, period. But if that's not the case, then Napheesa Collier saying what she said and then not taking a meeting and then allowing all this to get personal only hurts the end goal of a productive CBA and everybody coming to an agreement. That's kind of the way I look at this whole situation at this point in time. What do you guys think? Get to the member chats, super chats, comments, and all that. But it's certainly an interesting story. Sorry, it doesn't like. Try not to swig when I, or do the like kind of deal. It's certainly an interesting story, and there's a lot of layers to it. And I also, I'm not present for the conversations and in the room, so I don't know exactly, what's going on there. I don't know all of the details, all of the machinations, all of the, strategies. I just know that you can't have what you've had the last couple of seasons in the WNBA and not reach a new CBA. By the way, there was some old comments from Cathy Engelbert that have circulated a little bit since this went down in regards to Caitlin Clark and her endorsement deals. This was from 2024.
Well, let me clarify first, because it's proxy season, right? No CEO do you just put the base pay in there. You put their bonus, you put their stock options, you put everything. Caitlin has the ability to make up to $500,000 just in WNBA wages this year. So, of course, they're just looking at a base which is collectively bargained. And actually, it's low because she's the number one pick. She'll make a little more than that. But she also has millions and millions of dollars of endorsements. She's actually, because she declared to become pro, her endorsements are higher in dollar value. She has a global platform now, not just a U.S. platform. So she's going to do just fine, as will the top players in the league, as every league does. Also, there's comparisons to the men. Those men's leagues are 75 to 120 years old. We're tipping off our 28th season. I would say if you looked at them 28 seasons in, we're further ahead. But I realize we still have a lot of work to do. And it's all about the ecosystem.
So, look, I mean, it aligns a little bit with what Fee alleged that Engelbert said. But you just don't want it to get that ugly, I guess is all I would say. And it's easy enough to say, you can't negotiate with Cathy Engelbert. Fine. Then put that on the table. WNBA players, if you want Cathy Engelbert gone, go all the way in. We will not negotiate a new CBA if she's in charge. Put the pressure on the owners. Put the pressure on the NBA. Put the pressure on Adam Silver and company. But otherwise, don't allow it to get so personal. Don't allow it to get so personal. I understand, her denying would be calling Napheesa Collier a liar. But Collier's also the one who dropped the bomb and got this all started. And bottom line is, everybody has to look for the bottom line and what the real end goal here is, which is capitalizing on the WNBA's momentum and getting a new CBA and getting everybody paid. Pettiness ain't going to help along the way. That's it. That's all. That's all, folks. Please like and subscribe. Drop your comments in the chat. I'll get to the member chats and the super chats momentarily. But that's kind of how I assess the entire situation at this moment. Then there is the NBA. And I just wanted to share something that caught my attention. You know what it must be like to be in a city and then you see Godzilla coming? You look, oh, Godzilla. And the buildings start to get stomped on. Or, of course, when you're by the shore and you see that shark fin on the horizon and the music hits. Dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. That's how the NBA must feel about Victor Wembanyama today. Because if you've seen the new footage, it looks like Wemby got brolic and he's taking no prisoners, which is absolutely terrifying. The guy is just a super talent, a freak of nature. I was at the NBA draft when he was drafted, and he appears to be 100 feet tall. But now it feels like he's bulked up too. And if he stays healthy and is able to play physically, along with the skill set that he has from the perimeter, it's about to be scary. And the San Antonio Spurs are very, very lucky. Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Victor Wembanyama, a big man's paradise over there. Here's the footage that I'm talking about. By the way, he also said, we'll get to that. He also said he's training with Kevin Garnett. If you get a little bit of KG mentality in Wemby, you know the phrase, anything is possible. Here's the highlight I was talking about that got a lot of attention. This is I hope I have it up. Yeah. Victor Wembanyama in the preseason here. Look at this guy come down the court. My goodness. Just an absolute monster. Oh, get out of the way. Gah! I mean, that is terrifying. There's no other way to put it. The way he's able to handle it his size and then finish inside like that. Absolutely terrifying. And this is what he said about working with Kevin Garnett, who I'll get to Kevin Garnett in a second and what he meant as a transformative figure in the league.
Is it like working with KG?
Super interesting. You know, he's got a very unique perspective on the relationship, you know, as a leader, relationship with teammates and opponents and even the refs, you know, it's and even the media, everybody. But yeah, he's really, I think he's really smart emotionally, you know, and he's got this energy, but he knows how to channel it and use it for best.
So the thing about Wembanyama, you can see his arms there too. He looks like he's bulked up a lot. He has always been about the game and committed. He has always been like, you know, a business, not letting the distractions in, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, I don't know if he can. There's always this question of like who can be the next face of the NBA, because LeBron James is on the way out, and Steph Curry is, you know, also not exactly toward the beginning of his career. So that's been the question, like who's the next face of the NBA? And I've made the argument that Caitlin Clark is the face of basketball. It may be hard for it to be Wemby just because of his size, and it's not the kind of thing that others are going to want to emulate, really. Like, you don't watch him play and go, I'm going to be that, or I could be that. That's the one thing sort of holding him back, but that has nothing to do with his impact on the court. Nothing to do with his impact on the court. Steph Curry was back in action as well. Here was Steph. Sometimes you miss this, and you just like the electrifying, you know, thing about Steph Curry's game. He really did change the game. Just that catch and shoot from that deep. Crazy to see. So NBA back in action soon, right around the corner. We'll see how they, you know, it's funny with the officiating talk in the WNBA, how it balances in the NBA, because in the WNBA, it's like too physical, right? Too physical, too physical, too physical, too physical. And in the NBA, it's like too many whistles, too many whistles, too many whistles, too many whistles. You got guys selling for fouls. Just trying to sell for fouls. But where that medium meets, that's interesting. That's interesting. All right, let's get to the member chats, super chats before I get out of here today. Nets legend KG says Kevin Zwicker. Kevin Garnett, a member of the Brooklyn Nets for a period of time. The Nets had a rookie starting at point guard the other day. Ben Saraf started at point guard out of Israel. But the Nets have a kind of a long way to go. Just a bit of a long way to go. Kevin Garnett. That was that. It's kind of it was that Sports Illustrated cover, right? Wasn't it? With Karolinko, Garnett, Darren Williams, Paul Pierce, and Joe Johnson. When the Nets tried to make that big splash, and they put the billboard next to Madison Square Garden, the blueprint for greatness, and it was Jay-Z and Mikhail Prokhorov, who was the owner at the time. I'm sure it succeeded in getting under Jim Dolan's skin, but it didn't exactly succeed when it comes to success on the basketball court. Good morning, John. Diana says, The Chatter is a reality housewife show. Athena says, good morning as well. Joe Lala says, good morning. All of these CBA negotiations are normal. Player statements, normal. Commissioner response, normal. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about it, too. It doesn't mean that the CBA is not going to be reached. And what's happening in actual bargaining sessions, it could be a lot of noise, which is fair and a good point. You know, I've seen these things get sort of ugly before, but they're not, you know, then all of a sudden you hear about progress and all of a sudden there's a deal after that. So that could indeed be the case here. What makes it different is that Collier made it so public, which is a great story, but I don't know how much of an impact it has. Athena says, agree that both Stewart and Collier should not be part of the leadership in the WNBA Players Association. Stern says, Fee did this to change the narrative. The fans and the media tends to side with the billionaires when it comes to work stoppages. Well, I mean, work stoppage is not acceptable for the WNBA. I don't think. All parties involved, that is. Ben says, feels like maybe they don't want to negotiate until she steps away. The conflict of interest thing is a big deal too. If they want to hire revenue, it's only fair. They don't let them do Unrivaled. Yeah, the Unrivaled chip is interesting. And how that falls, how that's interpreted, how that goes. Because I can see the argument from the WNBA side that if we're going to pay you this much more, give you this much more of the revenue share, then we want you to only play in our league. And then from the Collier and Stewart side, I don't know how they could see that and then accept it, because they've done so much to build up Unrivaled and the investments that they've gotten in Unrivaled. So it is a bit of a pickle in that sense. TXZ06 says, I don't see how Napheesa can't have a conflict of interest. She should recuse herself. Kentucky Rick says, don't forget that like button. Robin, thanks for the show. Thank you, Kentucky Rick. That's what I got for today, y'all. Do get those likes and subscribes in, please. Por favor. You know, as far as the schedule of the show, I'm figuring that out as I go. I got a project I'm working on right now. It's taking up a lot of time, but you know, I will be here and we will figure this thing out as we go along, because no matter when I show up, y'all show up, and I do very much appreciate that. So any feedback, you can put that in the Facebook group as well. Let me see if I can grab the link to that real quick. You can always share it in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts. I got to get the Ring Rascals. I had an idea for a video. Like, my son actually has, he doesn't mind me sharing because I asked him. He has, he takes some medications, and one of them is Dupixent, and he has a Dupixent box. signed by WWE superstar Jey Uso, and the origin story of why his Dupixent box is signed by Jey Uso and not something else is one I was thinking about having cut up. But get any more comments, likes, subscribes in. We talking some NBA, like I said. I've always been known for hoops and NBA talk. Easy enough transition. Just addition, I guess I should say. Addition. Any more likes, subscribes, any more comments, member chats, super chats, now is the time. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off for today, y'all. Checking them. Midnight Exploring said I would appreciate more NBA talk. We're going to get it. It's coming. Good. Evolution, like I said. You know, when I started this, let me do my little soliloquy right now. So what did I share? That was a curveball that got knocked out of the park. When I started this channel, right? Like you can go back. I saw some comments that were kind of touching on the first episode, which is after everybody was fired at SI at one point. And I didn't know what to do or the direction to take. I just said, I think when you watch that show, I said, I'm going to do what I know how to do. And I started that and, you know, I was marrying the topics to the news of the day and what was most interesting and all that. And then like, you know, trying to weave in my personality. That's another thing I want to get back into, my personality, my interests and fun. And, you know, I always felt like, you know, I got the wit to host like a late night talk show. Right. But I was doing it and it wasn't until Caitlin Clark was the topic du jour at one point. And it was such a fascinating story that brought in so many people that I followed it along and really dove into that story and obviously into the Indiana Fever and then into the WNBA as a result. But now that the Fever are out and, you know, of course, Caitlin Clark had her injury and the WNBA season is almost over. I will talk women's college basketball. I know people have come to me for that as well. But I think in order for it to thrive, I gotta mix it up a little bit, and we'll figure that out together as we get there. Because I do hope those of you who came along for the ride decided to stick around for me as well. Joe Lala says, we appreciate you, Robin. I started following you after CeCe's first big win in LA. Oh, yeah. Remember that shot? Wizard of Oz picture in my head. CeCe, Robin, and Cyndi Lauper. Interesting. Girls just want to have fun. The early days of the show had some funny moments for real. Tracy Nielsen has followed me since my ESPN days. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for that. That, means a lot because I was on early in the morning at ESPN, 4 to 6 in the morning. Oh, Element says, sharing about the youngster your kids bring you such joy. It's cool when you share with us. You're leading them to such a good sense of humor. Yeah, I have to maybe we'll make that video. You'll get the Knicks stuff in. Well, Miss Chief, you check out whatever videos that I do post in the process. Oh, Cyndi Lauper. Was she at WrestleMania 1? She was at one of the early WrestleManias, that's for sure. But anyhow, that was my whole spiel. Or as Diana said it, soliloquy. So I'm not going to marry myself to anything right now. I'm going to date around a little bit, but just wanted to always say that I appreciate you and I appreciate y'all being here because we got an audience today too. And there's always an audience whenever I fire up this machine. So thank you all. And until the next one, eat.